Hello and welcome to the Fast Track Travel Clinic with me, Simon Calder, and let's start unravelling the tricky world of travel with a question from Umesh Bedi. He contacted Fast Track from India on behalf of a friend whose first family trip to Europe began disastrously. They were flying from Delhi via Doha to Zurich, but at the connecting point, Qatar Airways staff spotted that the wife's visa for Switzerland and the other so-called Schengen countries didn't take effect until the following day.
She was not allowed to board the connecting flight and instead was rebooked on a flight to Zurich 17 hours later with no hotel provided. After this harrowing ordeal, what type of compensation can she expect?
Umesh, the answer is none. Sorry to start with an unhelpful response, but I hope it will benefit other travellers. Like all other airlines, Qatar Airways insists it is your sole responsibility to ensure you have the correct visa. This unfortunate lady appears to have been an unwitting victim of the way the time zones work. The early morning departure from the Indian capital reaches Switzerland's largest city the same day rather than the day after. Qatar Airways actually helped the lady by putting her on a later flight. Anyone else who has a tricky itinerary planned, make sure your visa and flights are in alignment before the journey begins. Next, Paul McAllister flew from Belfast in Northern Ireland to Osaka in Japan on a one-way ticket because he wasn't sure when he would return. When he tried to book a homeward flight, the fares were very high, so his father George stepped in.
I found a return flight starting in Dublin via Frankfurt to Osaka for around $1,000. But when Paul went to check in at Osaka, he was told as he hadn't appeared for the outbound trip, his return flight was cancelled. A replacement flight cost him $1,500. Is this procedure normal?
I'm afraid it is, George. The airlines do it to prevent passengers taking advantage of exactly the kind of loophole you thought you'd discovered, using a cheap return flight rather than booking an expensive one-way trip, a practice known perhaps harshly as tariff abuse. Unless you bought the ticket from Dublin to Osaka on the recommendation of an agent who assured you it was a safe way to save money on a one-way trip, I'm afraid you're out of luck. Sadly, it needn't have happened at all. Specialist youth and student agents offer cheap and flexible tickets that allow passengers to change dates free or for a small fee, which is a courtesy denied to us older travellers. Finally, while the world watched the tumultuous events in Libya unfold, Chuka Diobio had a specific concern. Earlier this year, he booked tickets from the capital Tripoli to London, but
I was unable to use the tickets as British Airways stopped flying from Tripoli. I have contacted BA twice for updates but without success. I have no idea on when and if these tickets will be refunded.
Chuka, coincidentally, I also had a Tripoli-London flight booked with BA. I got a refund in a month or so, but that was because I paid with a credit card. You paid by cash, and the airline tells me that United Nations sanctions that applied while Colonel Gaddafi was in power meant it was unable to refund those tickets in Libya. Instead, claims are being handled by the BA team across the border in Tunisia, where there's a processing backlog. But BA assures me your request is being dealt with. If you're still waiting, by the time I'm back on Fast Track, you know what to do. Just email fasttracktravel@bbc.co.uk and I'll do my very best to find you an answer. From me, Simon Calder, bye for now and see you next time.
Right, what destination is this? The most popular seaside resort in Europe. More visitors a year than the Taj Mahal, and in itself a glittering, shimmering monument to kitsch and faded glory. Well, outside Britain, not many people know about Blackpool, but to thousands of UK holidaymakers, it holds a special place in their heart. We sent Joanne Worley back to her roots to find out what the attraction is.
I want to tell you about a lovely place down by the sea. It's not in France or Italy. 'Twas made for you, 'twas made for me. The place I mean is Blackpool.
People have been holidaying in Blackpool since the late 1800s, when factory workers came here for their summer break. Nowadays, the town is just as popular as ever. Last year, 13 million people visited, but of those, less than 1% were from overseas.
What exactly is Britain keeping secret? Well, I've been coming here since I was a toddler, and people might think that Blackpool's some dreary, drizzly place somewhere in the north of England, but when I was growing up, there was nothing more exciting.
Now I know you get theme parks all over the world, but the Pleasure Beach is a real piece of Lancastrian history. Some of the rides have been here since the 1900s, and when I was younger, a ride on the big one was a rite of passage.
I think if someone told me that they'd not been on the big one and they're from Lancashire, I think there was something wrong with them.
When it was built in 1994, it was the tallest, fastest and steepest roller coaster in the world. Now, the world's caught up with Blackpool, but it's still the tallest in the UK, and it's still pretty scary.
That was so much faster than I remembered. It's made my eyes water.
Do you want to go to the seaside?
These few miles of coast are the birthplace of the working class seaside holiday, but there's more to Blackpool than just the beach.
There are some famous aspects to Blackpool, like the Tower Ballroom, which of course is an international venue, and that's the one time when we do get international tourists.
The ballroom sits on the base of Blackpool Tower, and coachfuls of people arrive every day to dance to the Wurlitzer organ. Away from the dance floor, it's a short lift ride to the top of the tower. It was built at the end of the 19th century after the mayor of the day visited the Eiffel Tower and decided to bring a bit of Parisian glamour back to the north of England. Crowds of people come for a paddle throughout the summer, and many, like my family, brave the winter too.
I think on this photo you'd actually struggle to find anyone having less fun on a beach. The tide is so far out that there was definitely no chance of swimming. Not that you can swim anyway because it looks so cold.
Freezing cold and past it. That's what some people think of Blackpool. So where are they getting that idea from?
A lot of them don't come up this far because, to a certain extent, I think we're a bit of hillbillies, but we're not. We're so friendly.
The reputation, I guess, is for stag do's and stag hen nights, etc. But it's not just that. There's so much more. Yeah. Yeah, I don't have a reputation, but it's not as bad as it used to be.
The regeneration of Blackpool, which has taken 10 years and cost £300 million, has gone a long way in changing people's opinion of the town, but it still remains relatively unknown throughout the rest of the world.
I have not seen any promotional literature or advertisements for Blackpool, and I think other people would say the same.
In the UK, Blackpool is probably best known for its illuminations. They've been lighting up the resort since 1879 and were the reason why I used to come year after year with my family. For the 9 weeks of the year that the lights are on, the traffic can be very heavy. Catching a tram is definitely the best way to see them.
Critics say the lights are trashy and a bit tacky, but I think they're missing the point. Blackpool isn't meant to be sophisticated, it's supposed to be fun.
And something seems to be working. After all, there aren't many places where you can holiday in pretty much the same way as people did over 100 years ago.
Joanne Worley there, and Blackpool lighting up England's northwest coast. Well, that's what we've got time for this week on Fast Track, but join us again next time when we head to Kenya, where hotels are closing and tourists leaving after a second kidnap on the country's idyllic Lamu Island. And don't forget to check out our website at bbc.com/fasttrack or have a look around bbc.com/travel. This week, the spiritual side of Ecuador and the curative watering holes of Western Ukraine. But until then, from me, Rajan Datar, and the rest of the Fast Track team, thanks for watching, and wherever you're travelling next, have a good trip. Goodbye.